Praise the Lord, everybody. I'm Prophet Xavier Morris of the End Time Healing Ministry. And as you see just from the title in itself, we're talking about unrepentant sin. And it's one of those sins where essentially we see happening that's very rampant. And it's rampant simply because many of us have gotten too comfortable doing what we've been doing. And we think we have a get out of jail free card. Especially when it comes down to how we live our lives and how we thrive per se. And we see this all over the place. We see this in the streets. We see this in our everyday lives, and most importantly, we see this even in the church. So when we just think about unrepentant sin, one of the biggest things that we see essentially when it comes down to unrepentant sin is the fact that too many of us get too comfortable with the thrill. We get too comfortable in the sin to the point where you give the devil legal ground. And anytime you give the devil legal ground, this is one of the main reasons why we see so many people in particular struggle for years. They're losing their health, they're losing their wealth, they're losing a lot of gifts and miracles that God wants to do. But one thing about God, He's a gentleman. He's not going to force Himself onto anyone. And because He's not going to force Himself onto anyone, what we see firsthand are a lot of people essentially falling by the wayside. And the main reason why they're falling by the wayside is because of the fact that they of their ignorance, or how we say willful ignorance, to where you fall so much in love with your desire to the point to where you're almost in a rut. It's almost like you're in a maze. Think about it from this perspective. You're a boat, and a sailboat in particular, and everything God is trying to do, He is literally the wind behind those sails. But as that boat, you're in the ocean. You don't have an oar, you don't have a compass, but most importantly, you don't even have an engine itself. And all you're doing is coasting. You're going in circles over and over and over again, thinking that you're making progress. And the minute that someone tries to correct you, because they're staying the course that God has taken them, they're trying to give you the correction that you need, and you want to fight them. And you want to fight them and argue and make all types of excuses, not realizing that that is God basically telling you, hey, listen, you need to get yourself together. You need to tighten up. You need to get yourself back because you're so far off the course to the point to where to the point to where literally this is where you're supposed to be. Now look at my hand that's moving to the point where now you're so far off the frame to the point where you don't know your left from your right. You don't know where you are. But yet you don't realize it because you got comfortable. You got too comfortable. So when we just think about just certain scriptures, Proverbs 20:13, whosoever conceals his transgressions will not prosper, but he who confesses and forsakes them will obtain mercy. Revelations 21:8, but as for the cowardly, the faithless, the detestable, and for the murderers, the sexual immorality, the sorcerers, the idolaters, and all of the liars, their portion will be in a lake of that burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death. And then when we go into the book of Proverbs, Proverbs 29:1, whoever remains stiff-necked after many rebukes will suddenly be destroyed without remedy. So think about the stiff neck. Is that you? That's one of the biggest questions to ask. Are you stiff-necked? Are you hard-headed? Do you think that you're more smarter than what you really are? And if you think that you are, I have something to tell you. You will suffer the consequences for your actions. Think about how despicable it is to the point to where you are shooting yourself in the foot. You are the one that's essentially is the orchestrator of your own destruction. But yet you are blaming on the devil. The devil didn't have to do anything. He literally didn't have to do anything. You did it yourself. All he did was open the door and you went right in. And the sad thing about it is he didn't even close the door. He left it wide open. And you sitting right there doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, and you still making excuses. Now you're trying to figure out why you sick. You trying to figure out why your health, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually is declining. You trying to figure out why you can't get married, or why or if you do get married, why is that marriage failing? Why is all your relationships in the toilet? You trying to figure out why every job you apply for falls through. You try to figure out why all the things that you basically ask God for, those ideas, those innovative ideas that could be groundbreaking, it falls through. You trying to figure out, for the most part, why are so many people that you're hoping to be essentially there to help you along the way, they are no longer there. Have you thought that maybe, just maybe, you have set yourself up for curses? Curses all over the land because you gave the devil legal ground. When we go to Proverbs 14, and when we go to Proverbs 14, it talks about the wise woman builds her house, but with her own hands, the foolish ones tears her down. Is that you? Are you somebody who is selfish? Are you self centered, egotistical, prideful? Are you somebody who essentially cannot hear any type of sound doctrine whatsoever? These are things that you have to start asking yourself this question. How many times did God have to put people in your life talking to you, trying to lead you, guide you, or even be that covering that you need? And you say, no, I got it. No, I'm good. And I say this over and over again about a smart, dumb person. A person who essentially is literally putting their head in the lion's mouth and shock when it essentially devours you whole, and you try to figure out, how did I get here? You are literally allowing yourself to fall victim to something where a lot of people will say, you're on a roller coaster ride over and over again. You keep falling for and people like, what are you doing? What are you doing? But yet so many people just do not know exactly what's going on. So when we just think about psychology, there's a certain thing that we see called arrested psychological development. And what we see in arrested psychological development, all that really is essentially, there's a stage in your life to where, and this touches many different people, men and women alike. Let's just say at the age of 13 or 14 years old, either your father or your mother, whoever, did not show it a proper example. Either you saw the fussing, you saw the fighting, maybe you were a victim of abuse, maybe you're a victim of sexual abuse, maybe you're a victim of so many different things to the point to where during that stage of development, you may be 20, you may be 25, you may be 30, you may be 40, 56, no matter what your age is, when that during that time of development, when that trauma happened, you remained at the age of 13, 14, 15 years old. And we have too many people who are adults in body, but preteens and teens in the mind. And this is one of the main reasons why we see why it's such a struggle. It's such a grind to try to get you to understand and focus because you literally have the mind of a child. Case in point, anybody who has ever been a mother or a father, or anybody that's worked in the school system, or anybody who's a mentor in any type of capacity where you work with young children or teenagers, think of the excuses, think about the approaches that you have to deal with those kids, the consistency you have to deal with those kids. And you will see that all those things you see are the exact same thing you see in a plenty different adults. You will see that exact same thing in the church or a lot of so-called church folk. You will see this a lot with a lot of people who claim to know the word. All they do is make excuses after excuse after excuse. That's all they want to do is try to manipulate their way out of a paper bag, and they don't realize they're sinking to the bottom. and about to drown, and they're about to drown in their own sorrows. They're about to drown in their own sins, and they don't realize that they're the ones that basically caused it. So when we just think about the wisdom of the prudent is to give thought to their ways, but the folly of fools is deception. Once again, we're still in Proverbs 14. The faultless will be fully prepared for their ways, and the good rewarded for theirs. The simple believe anything, but the prudent give thought to their steps. Evildoers will bow down in the presence of the good, and the wicked at the gates of the righteous. The poor are shunned even by their neighbors, but the rich have many friends. So when we just think about sin in itself is like a blanket in a way. It makes you feel comfortable. It feels warm. But then after a while, have that exact same blanket get wet. Don't you feel the heaviness? See, at first you felt the warmth, but the more that same blanket that kept you warm, gave you comfort, the more it gets wet, the heavier it gets. That's how your burden gets. Now, before you know it, you're standing in what a lot of people call unrepentant sin over and over again. You keep falling for the same thing. At some point, you got to ask yourself this question: Why am I constantly keep getting high? Why am I constantly keep drinking? Like, ask this question: Why are you constantly going to the bottle? Why are you a drunk? Why are you constantly can't get yourself out of the exact same relationships that God did not set for you? You know good and well. You had no business being in a relationship. You know good and well God didn't tell you to move. You know good and well God told you to basically bloom where you were supposed to be, and then eventually He will take you to another place that He basically has put forth because you're gonna be ready. You know that person was married. Why are you messing with him? You know that person good and well had so like case in point. We're looking from a spiritual realm. There's a lot of women and men in this world. They said, I did not expect this person to be who they're showing themselves to be. And then when I look at the exact same person, I said, man, listen, this person got a whole sign ahead that said, don't mess with me because I'm gonna ruin your life. But you couldn't see it because during sin, it blinds your eyes, it blinds your mind, but most importantly, it closes your ears. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. You heard these things, but when you sin, now it applies to you to where not only you no longer see it, you can no longer hear it, and then when you're doing it, you no longer want to speak the correction. So one thing about the end time healing ministry and myself, you're going to get corrected. Just like how people before me had to correct me and show me the way, I'm gonna do the same because I love you. And one thing about love is patient, love is kind, but love also has sacrifice. And one part of sacrifice is I am taking the time to basically correct you. Just like how God is showing me the way and continue to show me the way and basically leading me down a certain path, I need you to get back on that exact same path as well for yourself. But too many people are making excuses. And you know why you make excuses? Because you enjoy it. You have literally fell in love with doing things a certain way. And this is the main reason why you are not getting the results that you hope for. And in fact, there are so many of us who are living a life of lies, literally to the point to where your time is running out. And before you know it, the gifts and the blessings that God has given you is going to run out. And right before you, it's going to die. How many of you have seen crops, or you have a plant and you plant the seed and you're watering, you're doing everything that you thought you're supposed to do? You're watering it, you still watering it, you still water it, and then next you know you start seeing that exact same plant that you've been watering start to shrivel and die. And you're like, well, what happened? And then you look at the instructions and you realize, like, okay, I did water it, but then you look like I kept watering it, but then I never stopped watering it to the point to where now the roots got waterlogged and now it started to die. This is what's happening. You're constantly watering yourself with foolishness. And because you're watering yourself with foolishness, your roots are starting to die. One thing that we see about sin, and let's be realistic here. Look at some of the pictures of yourself in the past of when you were living a lifestyle of fun. Now look at yourself where you are now. Now look at, or let's just put it this way, for because certain people are in different stages in their life. Think back to when you're around people that love you, who are living a lifestyle where God is leading the charge. And you can feel the presence every time they come around you. And you notice that every time they speak to you, they speak life. So think about how you looked in those pictures with those people, or when you're around those people, and look back and look to the same pictures of where you're with people who are living a lie or living a lifestyle of sin. You're going to see that the beauty, that zeal of yours that you had is gone in those pictures where you're just living a lifestyle of sin. But then look, and then when you look at the exact same picture, when you're living a life where you're trying to actually work on yourself and grow, and you're in the presence of God, you see that your skin in itself has a glow. You see that your hair still has that shine to it. You see, most importantly, just from you look at that picture, that there's a presence that God has put on you of love that's surrounding you, that veil that's surrounding you. But when you sin, it's like chipping at that veil. It's chipping. You're taking that armor off one after another until you get to the point to where you say, Lord, where did I go wrong? And God gonna say, daughter, son, I've been speaking to you for 5, 10, 15 years. Or for some of you, God's been reaching out to you because God knew that in this 3 to 6 month period, 9 month period, or a year, if you don't get yourself back on track, this is going to be the result. And I am sending your destiny helper right here, right now, to try to get you back on track. But if you decide to want to do what you want to do, the end result that I've been prepping for you to avoid, that is going to be the result. And many of us, through these trials, are literally seeing firsthand what happens when you live in unrepentant sin. It's literally like when you see like the old tales of the Sphinx. Just imagine somebody gives you the whole entire script of this is where you need to go, this is where you need to be, and on that path you're gonna find a Sphinx, and this is gonna be the riddle that Sphinx is gonna give you, and this is the answer. And if you answer it wrong, you're gonna be destroyed, or when you look about just that, you're gonna be eaten right then and there. You have the script right there. The script is right there in your hand. You're like, I don't want it. I'm gonna do what I want to do. And now you're shocked the fact that God has given you literally the answers to the test, and you still bomb the test. How? And we know open book tests can be some of the hardest tests, but no, I'm literally talking about the answers are right there. You have the teacher's edition. It is right there, and you threw it away. You literally threw it away. People, and God is like saying, okay, let me go send another angel on assignment to help you. Maybe this, and you'll take it. Okay, let me send this angel here to help you, and you'll take it. Well, maybe I send this one here, and you still don't take it. At some point in time, you have to ask yourself the question: why are you so dumb? I know you like what he just said. You just called me dumb. Yes, I did. Because one thing about a deaf and a dumb person, there's no coming back from that, especially in the spiritual realm. Because we could talk about objects like rocks and the trees, but one thing about them is when God come back on the scene, they're gonna be crying out because even they themselves have more common sense to realize that when God is on the scene, you need to listen, you need to pay attention, you need to cry out, you need to give him your all. But yet, one thing about us as human beings, we are so intellectual, so knowledgeable, but yet we so foolish. We can't see our nose before our very eyes. We just can't see it. We just can't see it. And because you have been blinded by your unrepentant sin. How much times, like literally, case in point, all of us have been on the highway. Now think about all of the advertisements, all the billboards that saying 30 miles to here, 2 miles to here, exit here. And some now just imagine you're on the road and it says 10 miles until dead end. There's gonna be a cliff at that dead end. You driving 9 miles, 8 miles, 7 miles, 6 miles. Turn back. There's a cliff, and you still driving. And then you drive, and then you drive off the cliff. He's like, "How did I drive off this cliff? Why am I falling to my death?" Did you read the signs? What signs? The sign right there. Even the GPS told you turn around. There's a dead end, and you still went there. At some point, you need to hold yourself accountable. But then once again, in order to hold yourself accountable, you have to be willing to admit that there's a problem. And it starts because we have a heart condition. And because of that heart condition, many of us are being literally deceived. And literally the devil just sit right there and say, shit, you making my job easy. I ain't had to do anything. I ain't had to lift nothing. Cause case in point, let's look at rats. You say, you know what? I'm sick and tired of these rats. I'm gonna put down this rat poison right here. And they eat it. This is you eating rat poison. Or let's just say you got ant problem. You put all the poison down, and the ants take it right back to the queen and kill the whole entire nest. That is you over and over and over again. And God said, all right, let me heal you and let me get you back on track. And you do it again over and over again. At some point, you have to look in the mirror and say, you the problem. It's not no one else. You are the problem. And until you realize you the problem, you're gonna have the exact same thing over and over again until the point to where you be old and gray, say, Lord, what happened? And you say, Lord, take me, Lord. I'm sick and tired. God said, I ain't done with you yet. You you thought you gonna die, you said, huh? Well, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna let you thug it out in your old age until you figure it out. This is the main reason why you see some people who are like 75, 80, 85, 90, some 100 years old. You say, oh, that's a blessing. Not realizing that that's their prison. That's their sentence. Say, I'm not gonna let you die until you get it right. You sitting here, you can't even get up the rain. You out here taking all the 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 pills, and you can't move. That's the only thing you have. And that is literally the problem in today's society. That's the problem. So when we think about Hebrews 10, the law is only a shadow of the good things that are coming, not the reality themselves. For this reason, it can never be the same. Sacrifices repeated endlessly year after year. Otherwise, would they not have stopped being offered? For the worshippers would not have been cleansed once for all, and would no longer have felt guilty for their sins. But those sacrifices are an annual reminder of sins. It is impossible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sins. And when you think about just that, Lord, forgive me. I'll change next time, Lord. Let me go pay my tithes. Let me go ahead to church every Sunday. Let me show up at Bible study once in a while because that'll get me in. Lord, forgive me. Lord, I thank you. That is literally the result of what we see when we talk about sacrifice. Sacrifice offering you did not desire, but a body you prepared for me. With burnt offering and sin offering, you were not pleased. Then I said, here I am. It's written about me in the scroll. I have come to do your will, my God. So therefore, what you had to do, you had to humble yourself like a child. A literal child, you had to drop down on your knees and say, Lord, forgive me. And you can't just say, Lord, forgive me. I'll check. No, God knows all. He know when you're playing. He know when you're not serious about it. You either be about it or don't do it at all. Because God is getting tired. And when he gets tired, he's going to remove some people. He's going to remove you in a way that you would not like. Even if he got to take your money, he got to take your cars, he got to take your clothes, he got to take that job you wanted, he even got to take your health, that fertility you thought you wanted, he going to take that too until you get yourself right. And unfortunately, a lot of people refuse to change. Day after day, every priest stands and performs his religious duties again and again. He offers the same sacrifice, which can never take away sins. But when this priest had offered for all time one sacrifice for sins, he sat down at the right hand of God. And since that time, he awaits for his enemies to be made his footstool. For by one sacrifice, he has made perfect forever for those who are being made holy. So when we go to the next one, Psalms 7. Now, when we just think about Psalm 7, I'm particularly looking at Psalm 7, 12 to the 16. And let go to, but before I get there, say, Lord my God, I take refuge and you save and deliver me from all who pursue me. Or they will tear me apart like a lion and rip me to pieces with no one to rescue me. So that's the first and the second. Let us go to the 12th. If he does not relent, he will sharpen his sword, he will bend and string his bow. He has prepared his deadly weapons. He has made ready his flaming arrows. Whosoever is pregnant with evil conceives trouble and gives birth to delusion. Whosoever digs a hole and scoops it out falls into the pit they have made. The trouble they cause records on them. The violence comes down on their own heads. So when you think about it, some of you are so smart. You think, oh, I'm gonna get out of this. I'm good. Or you gonna try to screw other people over. One thing about life is this: when you just think about those who are in the streets, they already know what. And when we talk about the street codes, what do the street codes tell you? If you go dig one ditch, you might as well dig two, because trust and believe, the person you thought you were gonna bury, you're gonna bury yourself. So always just think: if you digging a ditch for somebody, sometimes you digging a ditch for yourself. And then just always think about things like this: the Most High is here to help you, lead you, guide you, and protect you. But yet you don't want to cover, you don't want to protect you. So God said, okay, you got it. And he gonna be right there, just looking. And the angel like, God, you want me to jump in? No, 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 no. He got it. She got it. Let them stew in it for a bit. And and for many of you who refuse to listen or take what I'm telling you the correct way, understand, you're gonna stew in this. And you're gonna stew in it for years. Sometimes some of the blessings you thought you would get, God gonna say, you the blessing I'm gonna give you, that's gone. I'm gonna give it to somebody else. That mantle of yours, I'm gonna give it to somebody else who's worth it. Because there's souls at stake and you playing. So therefore, since you want to play, I'm gonna give you a better game. That game you thought that you gonna get to the next level, you can go ahead and stay on level one, stew in that for a bit. And that's what exactly is happening to many different people. And finally, we talk about Matthew 18. And Matthew 18, I'm going to call that the standard. In Matthew 18, at the time, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, who then is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? He called a little child to him and placed the child among them and said, truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whosoever takes the lowly position of this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whosoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me. If anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to stumble, it will be better for them to have a large milestone hung around their neck and be drowned in the depths of the sea. So when we just think about just all these things, you got to hold yourself accountable. Because if you basically don't hold yourself accountable, you cause anybody in your life to basically fall by the wayside, their blood is going to be on your hands. Cease that you do not despise or even trip up one of these little ones, for I tell you that their angels in heaven always see the face of my Father in heaven. What do you think? If a man owns 100 sheep and one of them wanders away, will he not leave the 99 on the hills and go to look for the one that wandered off? And he will find it. Truly, I tell you, he is happier. He is happier about that one sheep than about the 99. So when we just think about unrepentant sin, you gotta get it right. He's gonna love you. He's gonna continue to work with you. And just like that one sheep that's lost, which is you, he's still gonna keep looking for you. He's still gonna keep working with you. Just like how he has your hand, like, here, take my hand, and it's up to you whether you take that hand or not. He still love you until the end of time, until your last breath. But trust and believe, you need to get away for your last breath, because if not, it's no one's fault but yours. With that being said, for the end time healing ministry, do you have any unrepentant sin in yourself? Either you get it right or you don't. If you don't, so be it. That's up to you. God's gonna love you regardless. Because just like many of us, there's plenty of people in our lives and human beings that we love daily. Your brother, your sister, your cousin, even some of your contemporary, whoever, you love them to death. But guess what? You've been on jobs where certain people you warned them, they got fired. There's some people you warned in your life, they went to prison. They basically were in a cemetery. There's some of those who still strung out on drugs. there's still some those who essentially still can't get it right, still insane, still lost in the dark. But regardless, they had an opportunity, they had a chance, and God's gonna continue to give them a chance until your dying breath. But trust and believe, anything that you sow, guess what? If you sow it, it's gonna come back on you, and you got to face it head on. So, with that being said, for the End Time Healing Ministry, do you have any unrepentant sin? If you do, check it at the door. If not, you will continue to get the enemy legal ground in your house. So, with that being said, God